Welcome in, everybody, to the official Buttholes 2021 NFL Draft coverage, brought to you by
Scott, the Great Brandino, Cage's Rage, and Star Lamar.
It's your one-stop shop for everything draft coverage, night 1, night 2. Brought to you by
literally all muted.
All right, how about now? Can the great people hear us now?
Now,
welcome everybody to the Butthole breakdown of the NFL Draft. We were talking for a couple minutes there, and no, it's still muted, dude. No, it's Scott's muted.
It's just me. I'm the one muted because I should be. So everybody, you guys take it away. I'll just shut up.
Were we muted that whole time?
Wait, are we doing the movie review? I'm confused now.
No. This is legit. This is the real deal.
He doesn't really talk either.
This is episode 225 of the official Butthole podcast, coming off of the live NFL draft coverage that we had coming to you guys over Thursday and Friday night. We will be wrapping up the draft with grades tonight from the AFC and NFC North divisions, followed by a second episode, which we will break down the AFC and NFC South. First and foremost, though, we'd like to say thank you to all the listeners for an awesome Thursday and Friday night covering the NFL Draft nights 1 and night 2. It was our pleasure, and it was very, very much fun. What did you guys think of it?
I thought it was very, very much fun, too.
I had no complaints. I mean, maybe we shouldn't have done the night 1 trade offer.
No, I thought that was fine. I think it was the other 12 drinks that got us.
Well, you were the only one that just did shotguns and wasn't drinking at the other times. So
my beer count was 2.5 about halfway through that draft. I was doing a good job.
Do we need to pull up the beer count ticker again for tonight?
It was wrong.
We
counted the beers out in the morning. Beer count was off.
It was off.
And the sober one was keeping track.
Well, I didn't really care how many beers you guys were drinking. I was trying to break down each draft pick, and I think I did a pretty damn good job of it.
That's fair.
And so here's where you're going to get the rest of our opinions based off of the opinions of other people on how this draft went.
Yes, because everything here is OG, baby.
Oh, and I should mention, I did get a record deal off of my freestyle rap from night 2.
Did you?
Hell yeah.
Yep, I had.
Was it Doobie Scoo Records?
RCA was
Young
actually
Money.
the one.
Okay.
Nope. I wish. Maybe eventually, but yeah, they contacted me through the DMs, and I might be leaving here soon to pursue my rap career. So look forward to that.
Well, if you leave the Butthole to pursue your rap career, it was a hell of a time having you, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks. I appreciate it. The movie and reviews will go down, but the rest might go up.
That's going to pretty much just be a Gage monologue episode if you leave.
Oh my gosh, there's going to be so much detail.
Nobody wants that.
The original movie will be an hour and a half, and the movie and review will be
3
hours. Yeah.
But for now, we're getting into... Sorry, Stargo.
I was just going to give a quick update for anyone that might be concerned about Brandon's neighbor. We did hear the story about him getting carried out by several people out of a car, completely motionless at about 7 o'clock Friday night. And the next morning, he was out gardening, so he is safe. He is okay. He got put to work, so Brandon's neighbor is fine.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
We also have a listener question. Alex wants to know, where's the new intro? That was the new intro, or did we tease a different intro?
No, we got fat fingered there a little bit, but what we're going to do is we're going to come live with the second episode, and that we'll
play the intro.
We'll play
again.
the entire thing there.
we got to make a few tweaks and changes now that the draft is over, because our draft coverage is going to be winding down here. But that was a new intro. You can see it was the tongue lip lick for me on Star Lamar's clip. That's
shut it off right there.
That's why I need to sit down right now.
Are you ready to tuck the boner around, or are you going to throw it up into the waistband, or
doesn't reach?
I like how when you say up to the waistband, you go over your shoulder like a continental soldier.
It's where you clip your holsters,
All right.
Where are we starting? We're starting in the North?
We're starting in the NFC North with the Minnesota Vikings. Easy one to start with. This team right here, they traded down night one. If you watch the live draft coverage, you watched us all panicking as they traded down from 14 to 23.
And Elijah Vera Tucker was the guy we wanted at 14.
That's correct.
And he went at 14 gauge.
That's correct. But the Vikings ended up trading down. They still got the guy that they say they wanted. They got Christian Darrisaw. They round that out with not trading up into the second round. They stayed in round 3 and kept their 4 picks. They drafted quarterback Kellen Mond, who a lot of people are saying is a potential quarterback of the future, although most people say he still has to have a year or two of grooming before he would be ready.
Yeah.
They draft linebacker Chaz Surratt, who used to be a quarterback in college. He was converted over to a linebacker, so it's always nice to have a linebacker on the field that played quarterback in college. And then guard Wyatt Davis, who Ben Gessling actually has a better than 80% chance of being a starter come week 1 in the NFL. He has both Christian Darrisaw and Wyatt Davis as starters on the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, which is a huge address by Spielman and the scouting department to get us 2 new starting offensive linemen, because Lord knows we needed it.
Wyatt Davis at one point in time during the pre-draft process was mocked in the first round. So to get him there in the third is definitely a steal.
I think at the beginning, my first one, I had him going to the Chiefs at 31.
Yeah,
back in January.
They continued on in the draft. They drafted an absolute stud kick returner, punt returner who ran a 4.28 40 in Kene Nwangu. He was kind of a sneak pick. They drafted him, and a lot of people didn't even have him on the board to go even close to round 4. So they clearly are very high on him. They then drafted cornerback Cameron Bynum, which they don't even address the secondary until pick 125, which kind of led me to believe maybe they're more optimistic regarding Gladney than the original reports kind of were.
They could be. It could be one of those situations where it seemed very grim at first, but once all of the facts come out, it's not as big of a deal. It first seemed to be.
Also heard that Zimmer's not done making moves in free agency right now. There's still some big name free agents that he's looking at. Possibly maybe moving like a Richard Sherman to a safety spot.
Oh my gosh.
Cameron Bynum was drafted as a safety.
Yes,
he's converting to safety in the NFL. He already said it. He also said he's going to annoy the hell out of Harrison Smith because he's going to be asking him questions constantly. So he said he's looked up to that guy and he wants to model his game after him.
I like that, though.
Harrison is definitely not the type of guy who would falter away from that either.
And Xavier Woods also said he's going to do that, so he might be real annoyed. He might be demanding a trade here.
To get out of here.
Preseason.
But
Zimmer then also added into his defensive front, he added in edge rusher Janarius Robinson, who a lot of people are very high on. His scouting profile was very similar to Danielle Hunter's coming out of college. He's 6'5", 260, ran a fast 40. They said that he needs a little bit of polishing on his on his rushing moves, which is exactly what Danielle Hunter needed. Luckily for the Vikings, Andre Patterson is about as good as it gets when it comes to putting on a pass rush. Patrick Jones the second as well. We drafted in the 3rd round. He's another guy that we're looking at as a potential edge rusher that could help out a lot. They bookended that by bringing in wide receiver Amir Smith-Marset from Iowa in round 5, who a lot of people think could end up being the 3rd wide receiver come week 1.
He's an athletic guy, right?
Yep, athletic. He wasn't used a lot in college because of the college he went to, but he has high upside. Then they drafted tight end Zach Davidson in the 5th round, who was actually a punter in college as well as a long snapper, so they might be looking for different options here from him. And then they took in round 6, good value, I think, by most people's beliefs. Not edge rusher, defensive tackle.
I was just going to
Jalen Twyman. This was pulled from ESPN, so this is ESPN's fuck up, which isn't uncommon for them.
Yeah, I think he's going to play D tackle.
3 technique.
He trains with Aaron Donald in the offseason.
Ooh.
He's a big dude. I believe he sat out last year. People think if he did play last year, he could have easily moved up into the middle rounds, maybe even higher.
He sat out, I think, the last 2 years.
No.
The first was family related, and last year was because of COVID. So he fell a long ways because of those 2 things.
Which makes sense. Not playing is going to drop you down the boards.
Yep. So I'm sure, hopefully for the Vikings' sake, he's going to be hungry. What do you guys kind of have to say to the Vikings draft as a whole?
Altogether, I think that out of this draft, we got everything we were looking for. We got our quarterback project behind Kirk Cousins. We got a bunch of offensive line depth, hopefully a couple starters in that aspect, and some really solid pieces that I think Zimmer would love to coach up. In the edge rushers, Patrick Jones and Janoris Robinson, like you said, some athletic freaks there that really, really have got a lot to be polished, but like Danielle Hunter and Wanham last year, they don't mind having a project at edge rusher.
As someone that might have dug a little more into these guys, Scott, who do you see making the bigger impact out of the 2 defensive ends that we drafted?
I personally think Janoris Robinson is going to be a force this year. I think, assuming Danielle Hunter is healthy and locking down the 1 edge spot, I think when you have a tandem of, it's really a 3-headed monster of Robinson, Weatherly, and Wanham at that defensive end spot opposite of Hunter, you're looking at a really, really good rushing group there. And who knows, Robinson might end up just backing up Hunter this year because we do have a lot of edge rushers now.
What it sounded like was they really wanted to create competition for that second spot.
Yeah, and I think you look at guys that are in their 2nd and 3rd year now with the Vikings. You look at like Jalen Holmes. He's really on the chopping block. Some of these guys that they drafted that haven't really become much.
Yeah.
And then you look at it too. It says 3 edge rushers. Obviously, you said Twanum is
yep.
He's D tackle, right?
Yes. Correct. He's a 3 technique. Yep.
We're drafting depth here, so we're trying to fill these voids. And if we find one guy's playing better than the other, let's shoot him up the board, get him some playing time, see how that pans out, and just kind of keep rotating guys in and see who's going to possibly be getting to that Danielle Hunter level that we're looking for.
And there is the looming Danielle Hunter contract situation that's not so much of a secret anymore. It's pretty apparent that Hunter's probably going to want a new contract or something, whether it's more guaranteed money, whatever it might be. I think the Vikings, especially after this draft, are in a little bit more of a power situation where they can play hardball a little bit because they do have more depth now at edge rush. I would like to highlight too, though, Wyatt Davis and Christian Darrisaw, adding those 2 to the Vikings offensive line makes this offensive line not look so pathetic anymore because some of these guys that are below average starters now become pretty decent backup options. When you're talking about who's the guy that we gave up a 6th for from Arizona?
Cole Mason.
Yes, Cole Mason. Mason Cole, I think it was.
Mason Cole.
You look at him, he's going to probably push Wyatt Davis for a starting spot at guard. You have Brian Dozier, who we brought in. Assuming Darrisaw and O'Neal are your bookend tackles, you're going to be having Cleveland have one of those 2 starting offensive guard spots. So assuming Wyatt Davis can grab the other one, you're looking at a pretty decent prospect for offensive line there for the Purple this year. If it were to be Darrisaw, Cleveland, Bradbury, Wyatt Davis, Brian O'Neal, that's kind of the talk because Wyatt Davis is more of a power road grading type of guard, which I think would fit well on the right side next to O'Neal.
Our offensive line looks a lot different.
Without a doubt.
And it's a good different.
Looking at the quarterback we took, and we did fill our quarterback, Kirk Cousins, in on that pick.
We didn't pull the Green Bay.
We're respectful. And hopefully then Kirk Cousins, maybe we shouldn't have done it. Maybe we should have let Kirk Cousins get mad and want to leave.
Get that fire.
Yeah.
But he is looked at as a project. Definitely not a take right over. Dak Prescott was also looked at as a project and not a start right away guy. And he proved everyone wrong. Not saying they're the same player. Just saying.
Did see a tweet earlier today. Somebody sent it our way. And it was Mon saying that Minnesota sucks. The state of Minnesota sucks. Back in like
it was
2016
5 years ago.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. And people will change their opinions.
Oh, yeah. Once you start getting some fat paychecks.
If you're living in Texas, though, assuming he was at the time, and you say that about Minnesota, that's probably a fair thing to say. Like, outside prospects on Minnesota is it's cold and I mean, they're not. It's not great.
And there was no reference to the tweet. He could have been talking about a sports team that they just beat, or
the Gophers,
of which he was probably right at the time.
Yeah, it could have been something very little and not actually a direct shot at the state of Minnesota, but maybe people talking shit online. And he played in an AAU basketball game against a Minnesota team, and he just said the state of Minnesota sucks. All right, looking at this, and I think maybe I'm kind of going on a whim here, but we should do offensive rookie of the year and the player we think is going to be the best career out of every class.
And you're talking specifically per team?
Yeah, so each team will give who we think is going to be the best player as a rookie and who we think is going to be the best
Long-term.
career.
Perfect.
Out of all of their draft
Cage's Ray, do you want to go first? Or
Sure. I don't know much about Darrisaw, but I think if he does what we think he can do and kind of come in here and solidify a pretty horrible offensive line, without a doubt, that'd be my no-brainer for the rookie with the best impact. And I really like Chaz Surratt, not only because he's got a wicked cool name, but a quarterback converted into linebacker, a guy that's a real field general on the defensive side of the ball. I think his career could be really good in purple and gold.
Let's pull up our Iowa State scout out on the field here. He says Keeney Nwangu has dynamite speed, great returner, elusive back. He played behind David Montgomery and Breece Hall, who will be first or second round pick in next year's draft. So he doesn't seem as though the fourth round pick on Nwangu was out of bounds. He also had an Achilles injury.
I think he nailed it too with saying that great returner skills. I think that's what we drafted him for. I doubt he gets very many carries, at least here in his first year. But I think we drafted him to be a punt returner, kick returner.
Especially since we have Cook and Alexander, kind of that 1-2 punch. He might come in a third down receiving back if Cook's tired, something like that.
With Cook's injury history, it's not a bad move to have some extra depth at running back too.
We also have the Nebraska running back.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah.
I
think Nwangu could possibly take Abdullah's spot.
Chopping block, for sure.
The thing you got to remember, though, which the Vikings really care about this on their depth players, is Abdullah is a very good special teamer. So if Nwangu doesn't come in and show much as far as outside of his just punt returning skills, you might end up seeing a situation where the Vikings carry 4 running backs.
Yeah.
I think rookie of the year on the Vikings is also going to be Christian Darrisaw. It just makes too much sense. He's going to be a starter day one for sure. Yeah. Wyatt Davis might not be. That's why I leaned Christian Darrisaw. Overall, who's going to end up having the best career? I think it's also going to be Christian Darrisaw. But for just argument's sake, I will say, if you hit on that pick 66 with Kellen Mond, he's going to probably be your starter for at least 10 years, which puts him in a very unique position when you're talking about a potential tackle covering that. Or the next best option, in my opinion, would be Wyatt Davis. That'd be a lot of impact for those two to have to even come close to covering possibly what Kellen Mond could mean to this Vikings team.
Yeah, he could very easily be the future of this team if everything goes well.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I'm going to go Wyatt Davis on this one. I think Darrisaw coming in his rookie year could play just as well as Riley Reif did last year, where I think that Wyatt Davis, if he is the starter at guard, is going to be a light year better, in my opinion, than our guards from last year, who were pitiful. So I'm going to go with him. I do think that Darrisaw probably has the best long-term projection, but coming in at tackle, not too many of them step in and just blow them out of the water. Year one.
So I'm kind of between Darrisaw and Davis for rookie of the year. I do believe that Darrisaw is probably better, but taking over as a left tackle for a bad offensive line, it's usually not a rookie that steps in and makes that offensive line good. So there could be struggles in year one, especially with the quarterback that we have not being able to evade a sack. So his numbers aren't going to look as great as a quarterback that can run. And I'm going to take a wild pick for best career. I'm going to go with Vikings' own Mr. Irrelevant, Jalen Twyman, who for some reason I got a little crush on. And I think he could turn into like a Geno Atkins type player in the NFL.
I like that pick. Overall, where are we at on our grades here for Dustin? The scout for Iowa State is also our scout for Iowa, believe it or not. He's stationed in Iowa. He says Amir Smith-Marset from Iowa has potential at wide receiver, underutilized because of the offensive scheme. If the Vikings have a good year, Darrisaw or Wyatt Davis is MVP of the draft for the Vikings. And I do think there's a real argument to be made for Wyatt Davis just because guard play last year was so awful. Let's remember, our starting left tackle last year, Riley Reif, played very well. So for Darrisaw to step in, if he is to pull off and play to the level that Reif played, it would be an absolute slam dunk for the first year. Moving into the grade for the Minnesota Vikings draft.
Yep.
Where are you guys kind of at overall? An A? I think we're all leaning A.
I'm calling it an A. It's not perfect, but for what we had, no second round pick. I don't know if we're including that when we're making our grades, because that would take it down, the fact that they traded their second round pick for 6 games. But I think the trade back and getting 2/3 was awesome. Kellen Mond, great potential. They filled all their needs on the offensive line. I'd give them an A.
I like it. Moving into the next team's draft, we're looking at the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears did something really crazy. When night one of the draft, they moved up and traded a future first as well as this year's first. And they drafted quarterback Justin Fields, who happened to slide from the top of the draft. He was potential number 3 pick. He slid down to 11. The Bears went up and got him
for a little while early on.
Yes, he was early on. And then in round 2, they actually drafted another stud, in my opinion, offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins. Come to find out, the Vikings were really high on Jenkins. And then they also rounded out with no picks in rounds 3 or 4. So in round 5, they took another offensive tackle. The Bears went heavy on the O-line here to protect the rookie quarterback, apparently. Then they drafted a running back out of Virginia Tech, Khalil Herbert. I don't know much about. Wide receiver Daz Newsome out of North Carolina is a nice player in the 6th. And then they draft a cornerback and an interior defensive lineman as well. I think just alone with the top 2 picks in this draft, if the Bears hit their cornerstones at quarterback and offensive tackle, this is a slam dunk draft for the Bears. What do you guys think?
I think just in our division, going up against Daniil Hunter and the Smith guys over in Green Bay, there's some really finessey type of guys. And I think both these offensive linemen kind of have the same knock on not being very quick off the ball. So I would say it's a solid grade. It's definitely an A. I might hedge a little minus because it's just not a good scheme fit 6 games out of the year in the division.
For myself, I mean, getting Justin Fields, their quarterback of the future, sounds great, but the Bears have not produced a good quarterback when they've drafted them, and OSU has not produced a good quarterback when being drafted in the NFL. Right now, it seems like a marriage headed for doom. So until I see how that pans out, and truthfully, I'm hoping it doesn't pan out very well, because then we're going to be playing a good quarterback on the Bears for a long time. But projection wise, yeah, getting Fields is amazing for them. Tevin Jenkins in the 2nd round, when I had him going as high as 21 in my mock draft. So getting him there, kind of bookending. I don't know if they're going to move him to left tackle because that's a big need for him, or keep him at right, which they probably should. It's huge. But outside of that, the guys that got farther down maybe hit a little bit on the depth that they needed, but they didn't get anybody else that I thought is a big time playmaker outside of that. So top 2 picks, A+. Outside of that, I'd say it's probably closer to a C+, B-. So I'm going to have to go B. I'm going to go with the B.
I'm giving it an A-. That those first 2 picks is an A+ by far. Huge needs. I've said it a million times. Justin Fields is the best quarterback in this draft. I hate that he went to the Bears. Absolutely hate it. I don't even really care what they did after that. I tell you who really loves that they got Justin Fields is Darnell Mooney, who is going to break out next year. I watched him put people on skates and then get the ball overthrown probably 15 times last year.
Yeah. Is that your bud plug of the week?
Bud plug, Darnell Mooney, breakout season. Allen Robinson's going to love him too. Cole Kmet. They got a decent team. They made it to the playoffs with a combination of Foles and Treshbinsky. And I think you put Fields in that offense, they're going to be good probably for a while. It sucks for us, but I'm going to give the entire draft an A-, A+ for the first 2 rounds.
Going into our rookie of the year and overall top player in the draft, I think it's got to be both Justin Fields, and I don't think there's much arguing it. This dude, if the Bears hit on their first and second pick, this is an A+ franchise-changing draft for the Chicago Bears. If they bust on both of them, it's just the Bears being the Bears.
Yeah.
So it was a huge draft for them. The implications are massive. Overall, my grade for them has to be an A, in my opinion, because they got two positions of need, and they got, in a lot of people's minds, the best quarterback on the board outside of Trevor Lawrence. He goes to Chicago. They made a play for him. I love their first two picks, and I don't really care what they do after that, in my opinion. Overall, we're going A- for the Chicago Bears. Just a notch below the purple, but overall, very strong draft nonetheless. Moving on here, we're going to go to Detroit.
The knee biters.
Detroit had a unique draft. They had a very unique draft compared to the rest of the NFC North. They decided that they were going to just build up the trenches. They go with their first pick in round 1, pick 7 overall. They drafted Penei Sewell, who it was kind of a surprise he dropped that far, but he did nonetheless. And then in round 2, they go with what some people thought was the best defensive lineman in the draft, Levi Onwuzurike. When I say defensive lineman, I mean interior. The best guy ahead of Barmore. Then round 3, they double down and go with another guy in Aleem McNeil. Brandon probably knows more about these guys, as he wrote an article on officialbutthole.com about interior defensive linemen. And they also get a wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I like a lot. They got in the 4th. Overall, I think it's a pretty strong draft for the Lions. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of their first 3 picks. If you're not going to go playmakers, they're building up that line, which is huge. And those 2 D tackles they got, they're big boys. Onwuzurike they both stop the run. Neither of them are necessarily pass rushers. McNeil, I think, is going to do a better job at handling double teams, but they both take 2 guys to eat up the interior of that line. So both those guys are going to make it tough on offensive linemen on the other side and hopefully open it up for their edge rushers to get around and get to the quarterback, because those guys just don't do it as often. And then getting Penei Sewell there, why not protect your quarterback, whether that's going to be Goff long-term, whether you draft a guy next year, make a trade for a guy, whatever you end up doing. I love that. Fadi Melifonwu, too, he's a pretty good guy as well. I think
super athletic.
Yeah, athletic. His brother's in the NFL, so he's got kind of that, both of them got that bloodline going. And then getting a wide receiver was huge. Obviously, it's not a top-end guy, but when you're building your defense a little bit more, grabbing a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, pretty damn good.
Yeah, they definitely, it's not franchise changing yet, but it is foundation building. So it's very different kind of trains of thoughts between the Bears and the Lions, where the Bears are all in now. They got their 2 pieces, and they think that that's going to be the pieces that gets them over the hump, where the Detroit Lions are kind of starting from scratch. They're going to be paying a quarterback a lot of money, and they might be kind of getting ready for him to be leaving, and they want to build the team around him. So when they do draft a quarterback, there's already the trenches built for him, and he's not going to get his ass kicked,
which is huge.
Yeah, huge upgrade on the Lions offense and defense. In this division, it's definitely needed, going up against some pretty good, talented teams. So for this draft, it's a pretty solid start.
Who do you got for your rookie of the year and your 10-year stud, Gidges Rage?
It's got to be the blue chipper Penei Sewell, right?
Yeah, I think Penei Sewell's got to be both for them. He's got to be their rookie of the year this year, and he's also got to be that 10-year stud, because when you spend a top 10 pick on an offensive tackle, if they're anything less than that, it's a bust.
Yeah, similar to the Jeff Okudah of last year. Too early to determine if that's a dud or a stud, but didn't have an impressive rookie season, so he's got some ground to make up.
One guy that could sneak up on people this year is Amon-Ra St. Brown, because they're going to need playmakers in that offense.
That's actually where I was going. Kind of for the same reason I said Darius Howe wouldn't be the rookie of the year for him. Penei Sewell is being asked to do a lot for that team. I don't know if the team is good enough for him to succeed at it just quite yet. I know he has the talent too, but there aren't a lot of left tackles that can improve lines immediately. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to probably be thrust into a starting position early in the year, and I think he's going to see a lot of targets, similar to 17 Robert Woods
Oh, yeah.
Another USC receiver.
Yes.
Jared Goff was very comfortable with while he played for the Rams.
Similar body builds, too.
Yep. Same school, same pedigree.
I'm going to have to go Penei Sewell for both of them. I don't know as much about Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I do know that Onwuzurike sat out last year, and we're yet to see what that kind of affects players when they come back and how they stay in game shape. Now, he was obviously going at it, training everything, so he knew he was going into the draft, but still sitting out that year, you're going to knock some rust off. I do like McNeil, but I don't see interior defensive lineman necessarily being that rookie of the year, that game changer. So I'm going to go with Sewell for both of them.
Perfect. Thank you, Ernest, one of the co-founders of
give his
Blue Collar Media Group. No, he gave his. Penei Sewell.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep. I was
Thank you,
going to ask
Ernest.
you what your grade was, though.
Oh, my grade? Their top 5 picks, I like a lot.
Well, I said he's one of the co-founders of the Blue Collar Media Group. Brandon just tried clomping on it.
Keep talking over you. I'm trying to thank Ernest here.
Pull it back up.
He's a goddamn Blue Collar Media Group co-founder, and he fucking just glanced right over it.
Ernest, he said, great.
Whatever,
we appreciate it, Ernest. Thank you so much.
Gage has to give his take here. Gage has to give his take here, dude.
B.
All right, B. I'm going B, too.
I'm going to go B+. Their first 5 picks, pretty damn good.
Star Lamar?
I'm going B.
It is.
Averages out to a B.
That's a solid grade, a B for the Lions.
It has less to do with the players they got, more to do with the effect it's going to have on the team.
Yeah, it's definitely a foundation builder for the ankle bite or for the knee biters. Moving on here to the most dreaded.
They probably bite a few ankles right away.
Stupid team in all of national sports, not just the football league, national sports. So if there could be an F, it'd be an F. And the reason is because of the news that came out, which we have talked about at length. Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. And as Vikings fans,
good
riddance. Thank you. Thank you to the heavens above.
Give the man what he wants. Get him out.
Did you guys see him at the Kentucky Derby over the weekend?
Yeah, he did one interview with some poke-ass media group, and I'm sure that the catch was that they wouldn't ask him about his contract situation or his situation in Green Bay.
I just saw the meme that had him next to a picture of Tom Brady from the weekend. It said, looks like he's the FBI agent trying to track down the Tom Brady villain. Yes. Pretty spot on.
Did you see Brady's comments regarding Edelman today? He said, I know Julian doesn't want to retire. He's just afraid to tell Belichick that he wants to go somewhere else. He said, I know what that feels like.
Oh, jeez.
That's awesome.
The Green Bay Packers came in with their first round pick. They go cornerback Eric Stokes out of Georgia, and he was the 5th cornerback, I believe, at that point taken. Yep. So they took the 5th best cornerback on the board at pick 29.
On their board.
Was he the 5th best cornerback?
The 5th best. We'll just say they took the 5th cornerback off the board.
There we go. That's accurate.
So then round 2, they took center Josh Myers, who's the obvious plug-in to replace Corey Linsley, who got away in free agency. Who doesn't get away in free agency on that team. Round 3, they draft the wide receiver Amari Rodgers, who Aaron Rodgers, that Rodgers connection would have been great if Aaron Rodgers wasn't leaving.
Well, he already had Richard Rodgers.
Wasn't it different spelling, though?
Yeah, there's no D in that one.
Round 4.
Rodgers always has a D in him.
They draft a tackle. Round 5, they go interior D-line.
When it comes to purple and gold?
Round 5, another cornerback. Round 6,
Rodgers.
another tackle. Round 6 again, they go linebacker. And round 7, they go running back. It's really a prototypical Green Bay draft. They're a little all over the board, but they keep it pretty tight as far as building up the trenches. So,
Toy as in they don't draft what their team really needs?
Yeah, they draft
as in a Toiger.
So overall for them, honestly, I give them a D+ grade.
Do you want to pick your rookie of the year and 10-year?
No, I don't care.
You don't see one?
They did kind of get boned for how players fell to them.
Yeah, that's
it might
true.
have been too high to take any of them.
Yeah, but God forbid you trade. God forbid you trade.
Yeah.
Taking Eric Stokes there when you want to make your quarterback happy,
and there was
not smart.
There were some good cornerbacks.
They
on the board.
waited until the 3rd round to address that situation. They could have gotten a decent guy.
They could have got Elijah Moore,
especially at pick 62. Yeah. So they definitely could have helped him out more. Now, Amari Rodgers isn't a bad player. He wasn't like highlighted there necessarily in Clemson, but he's kind of that smaller, fast, speed guy. I think he's a good gadget player for them to get. So So I'm going to go rookie of the year is going to be Rodgers, but it's a D- grade for me.
Yeah, I think we're across the board D- overall here. So Packers get a D-, and we as a podcast are now moving into the AFC North.
We like the Packers here.
Yep. It's the unofficial.
The first team in the AFC North we're going with is none other than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who drafted in the first round the most obvious pick of all picks that have ever been picked, including Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, Najee Harris, running back at pick 24.
It was too obvious. I thought there was no chance it happened.
You thought it was so obvious it wouldn't happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you still owe me $30 on that butthole bet.
And a
I
shotgun.
was drunk. Did I do that? We'll have to go look at the
You bet
We'll
the
go review
shotgun
the film.
and $30.
We'll go review the tape. Round 2, they go tight end, which was, I guess, a position of need in their eyes. Round 3, center Kendrick Green, which was definitely a position of need. Round 4, they go with offensive tackle Dan Moore. He was a position of need for them. Round 4, they go linebacker Buddy Johnson.
My favorite is 156.
156, they go with Isaiah
Loudermilk.
That's right. Loudermilk, ladies and gentlemen.
If
Round
your milk is quiet, got to make it a little loud.
Draft yourself, Isaiah Loudermilk. Round 6, they go with edge rusher
Maybe in
Quincy
Vegas.
Roche from Miami. It was a little surprising to me that he dropped
Colorado.
that far, but
There's
it is what it is.
Miami defensive
Wisconsin.
ends gone, though.
No, not there.
We have a comment as
Oregon.
well from our official Alabama scout,
It's not Wisconsin.
who ironically lives in Iowa, which is quite close to Alabama. He says,
They kind of have the same like family
I think-
feel to them.
that's true.
In Iowa?
He says, I think Najee Harris will be one of the most valuable rookie fantasy players. Bet your house. Yeah, I think he will too. He's going to be a stud. He's going to get a lot of carries.
To me, it makes sense for them kind of more in that win now mode. 24, getting a guy who can pound the rock. They just have to be able to get him the ball. And
So
he's
is
gonna
that
be
the
able-
belief, though, is what costed them the season last year as far as the wheels fell off, was because they couldn't sustain a running game?
I'd say a little bit of that, but it leads into more Big Ben having to throw the ball more.
That's fair.
Mhm.
And
At
by
his
the end of the
age-
year, he was getting worn out.
He threw like 56 passes in that playoff game.
Yeah, and
You
you
just
got to
can't do
think.
that.
You got to think too. Tomlin would rather have a little more ball control offense,
Yeah.
a little more, and lean on their defense, which is a strength of theirs.
So I do like Harris there. I'm not a big fan of running backs in the first round, but if they're going to get the guy that they want, right there is the time to do it.
Let's just look at it this way, though, right? You have Big Ben, who's in the twilight of his career. Everybody knows it. You don't have an heir apparent behind him.
No.
Why are you drafting a tight end in the second round? They never produce as rookies. Not even the best ones drafted.
Or if you are confident that Big Ben maybe does have a couple years in the tank still, get him a damn lineman to protect his ass.
Yeah.
If he's going to be dropping back 50 times a game, why are you waiting until the third and fourth round to get some offensive linemen here?
There was depth at 55 for a tackle.
Oh,
God, they could have gone. No, sorry, Tevin Jenkins was 38, so they were off the board at that point. But there was a lot of good tackles left available at 55 that they could have taken.
yeah.
I think that tight end was the second ranked tight end on almost all boards going for it. So
That's fair.
He was.
it's not like they got a bad tight end or picked a tight end no one heard of. He's looked at as the second best tight end in the draft.
But they have 4 receiving threats that, I mean, how often is this Pack guy even going to touch the field?
And do they not still
Who
have
the
Ebron,
fuck is that guy?
who's a functional tight end?
Virgil Green's always
Are they the
banged
same
up, but
type
isn't he
of-
the backup?
Tight
No,
ends, though?
Freiermuth is a more well-rounded tight end
Yeah.
than Eric Ebron.
Hebron's just
Yeah.
more of the slot. Okay.
And I believe
Ebron is a red zone target.
I still don't like Dan Moore there. They should have gotten somebody better than Dan Moore Jr. at 128.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely.
Like they could have drafted Isaiah Loudermilk at 128. That would have been a solid pick. No.
He should have went 101.
I guess the
let's
question
get
is,
into-
do you see Najee Harris being a 10-year type of guy?
Let's get into it.
A
Rookie of
10-year?
the year for them as well as 10-year stud.
It's got to be Najee, but I don't know if he's got the 10-year stud in him. I mean, he's a great receiver. He seems like he can really take a hit and bounce back. So I would pick him for both of them. But just because they fucked it up in round 2 and 3, if they would have taken a lineman there, a tackle, I'd pick the tackle for the top 10 or the 10 years. But
Are you saying 10 years or tenure?
They're going to
they're the
10-year
same
him.
thing.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're going to hit him with that 50-year tenure. Star Lamar, what do you got?
Najee Harris is going to be their best rookie player this year. I think he's going to get a shit ton of action. I'm actually not very familiar
About that action, boss.
with a lot of the people on there. Najee Harris will not be good for 10 years, but neither will any other running back that was drafted in this draft. But I do believe he'll be a mainstay there for at least 5, especially with that 5th-year option. The tight end is the only one that kind of tickles my fancy a little bit, but I think I'll go with Najee for best career, too. Most memorable career.
Yeah, I agree on both fronts. It's Najee and it's Najee. Brandon?
It's Najee for the rookie for sure. I'm in between Najee, Freiermuth, and Loudermilk for the best career all time because I'll never forget Loudermilk.
Wisconsin offensive lineman. How can you go wrong?
And your last name is Milk. You're a dairy state. It just makes sense. I'm gonna fuck it. It's Pat Flirt. No, it's not Pat Flirt. It's Isaiah Loudermilk out of Wisconsin is going to have the best career. He's going to be able to learn behind their 2011 defensive tackle pick. What was his name again?
Star Matuafa?
No,
Casey Hampton.
Casey Hampton.
So this will forever be known in the city of Pittsburgh as 2021, the Loudermilk draft.
And people don't forget.
Guy they took out of Georgia Tech is P. Harvin, so he's got a cool name.
That's true. He does.
He might be in.
He could be a stud punter.
He's a punter.
He could be a stud punter.
But still,
that's why we just covered that one up.
He's P. Harvin.
All right.
P. and
When
Harvin.
I saw that name come across the board, I was like, "Oh,
what's your guys'
I think this is
that draft?
I got him at a C grade.
C. Yeah, I'm a C minus personally.
I'm a C.
I was really hoping they would draft a wide receiver in the middle rounds that would turn into a stud, like it seems like they do every year. They didn't, and that's what takes them down. I'll go with a C plus.
C it is.
C average.
C grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers overall from the butthole. Going on to the next team, the Cincinnati Bengals, and this draft looks like it's got a chance to be pretty special. When you stack up a wide receiver like Jamar Chase, who they took at pick 5, with an offensive tackle like Jackson Carman to add to the O-line, where they got Riley Reef, they have a couple other nice linemen. And then you go back-to-back edge rushers and Joseph Asai, who was a surprise drop to the 3rd, and Cameron Sample.
And they got him at 69.
Best
yeah,
pick
they
in the
did.
draft.
Nice.
A+ pick. And then they go Tyler Shelvin, who I liked as a defensive lineman.
Yep.
They draft tackle Deontay Smith. Kicker Evan McPherson. Kickers in the 5th is always sketchy. Just ask the Vikings.
He's a Gator. Chomp chomp.
Center Trey Hill. Running back Chris Evans, who is a sneaky pick.
Yeah,
and edge
Captain
rusher
America himself.
Wyatt Hubert. This draft.
They did get Captain America. That was a good plug, Gage.
This draft, what do you guys make of this for Cincinnati? I think it's everything they needed.
I don't know as much about Cameron Sample, but Asai, Carmen Jackson, and Jamar Chase, it's going to be pretty good.
In the AFC North, going up against 3 playoff contenders, you need offensive and defensive line. They absolutely hammered it. I love it. The only knock I can give this draft is the kicker in the 5th. So
He's the best kicker in the draft.
Yeah,
You need a kicker.
You're not even second best kicker in your division right now.
Tyler Shelvin is also he's a stud too. He's a big run defender. So on the defensive side of the ball, those 3 guys could be their defensive line for the next 5 years.
My biggest problem with their draft is they didn't go tackle in the 1st round.
I agree.
They were sitting with a high 2nd round pick with their choice of 4 to 5 pretty damn good tackles still on the board. They traded out, and they ended up with Jackson Carman, who I wouldn't put in the same list there as a Tevin Jenkins and a Dylan Radunes, and
I agree.
right there. So they did get some guys. If the guys they got out of the trade end up being good for them. But I feel like they should have stayed put in the 2nd and took a better tackle.
I agree. Although we don't know exactly what their board looked like. Maybe they like Jackson Carman. But from the outside looking in, they could have done a little better on that front. Who do you have Star Lamar for Rookie of the Year and 10-year stud?
I'm going to say Jamar Chase is the Rookie of the Year. And I think Joseph Asai might be there, the career stud.
That I think if they had Asai end up being their 10-year stud as well as Jamar Chase being their Rookie of the Year, I think they would be happy with that draft.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to go Chase and Chase.
Chase and Chase.
Yep. I think Jamar Chase is going to be it. And not to note here, but they did draft
you're noting
2 LSU players.
Yep.
And according to Coach O, they're a great player. You're going to get a great player.
You got to do the accent, dude.
You're going to be a great player. I mean, working hard. He's a great family man. You get a guy that you know is going to put in the work every day. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Damn, I didn't know Coach was coming to the
Butthole.
butthole.
They
today.
asked him about 3 or 4 different players.
Same
On
shit every
Saturday,
day.
it was literally the same thing on every player. He's a great player. Yeah,
Comes from a great family.
he's a family man. You know that you're going to get a guy who's going to show up and put in the work every day. Go Tigers.
Yeah, I'd have to go with Chase and Chase as well. Osai and
Chase and
Sample.
Chase actually sounds like a Hallmark movie.
Chase and Chase.
Chase and Chase.
But Burrow's gonna love throwing to Chase again. It's gonna be a match made in heaven.
That Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow connection could be dynamite if you're in a dynasty league for the next 10 to 15 years, which would be electric. I'm going Jamar and Jamar as well.
Who's going to take more pressure off of Jamar Chase for Joe Burrow? Is it going to be Tyler Boyd? Is it going to be T. Higgins? Or was it Justin Jefferson?
It was Justin Jefferson.
Ooh, I think Tyler Boyd steps in the number 2 role and just excels. I think it'll be Boyd in the pro level.
Jamar's not starting the season as their number 1.
No, he'll come in he'll start out like CeeDee Lamb started out last year for the Cowboys because he's coming in behind 2 established wide receivers.
Yeah.
So he'll have to work for it.
Yeah.
I think long-term T. Higgins will be the guy.
Yeah, of
that
course
takes
you do.
pressure off.
That's fair. Of course you do. It's not like he's on your dynasty team or anything.
What's your guys' letter grade on this?
For the Bengals, for me, I got to pull it up, but I
Is he on
think
my
I have them at a
dynasty
B.
Do I have T. Higgins?
I have the Bengals at a B
I
grade.
don't even know my
So
team.
I'm going B
Sure.
for the Bengals.
I gave this one an A-. Yeah, the only thing I knocked him for was that kicker. I mean, that was the only thing shy of getting a lot of depth at positions you need help on.
I'm going to give the Cincinnati Tigers a B. I mean, Bengals. Sorry.
I think I'll go B+. I'm not as high on Jamar Chase as everyone else is. We'll see if he can prove me wrong.
One thing to note with Chris Evans, he's going to have a lot of opportunity with Joe Mixon's injury history. And, I mean, the Bengals have thrown the dart at a lot of running backs in the draft lately.
I do not have T. Higgins.
I don't think anyone does.
No, somebody does, but it's not me.
I thought you do.
No.
Do you have Boyd?
Nope. I don't have any Cincinnati players. So I was just honestly plugging that.
Yeah, of course you were. You just dropped him, so you could say that honestly. All right, here we go.
Get him.
Next team up, none other than the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland decided it was a good idea to draft the 4th cornerback off the board at pick 26. I think most people would agree Greg Newsome was the best cornerback available when they drafted. Round 2, they decided to go with linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who fell a little bit because it turns out that he had a heart issue that popped up on the medical report late for teams, which scared teams, as well as people didn't exactly know, per reports, what to do with him on defense because he's kind of a tweener player, a light version of Isaiah Simmons. They took in round 3, pick 91. They took wide receiver Anthony Schwartz, which is a little bit interesting because most people feel like they do have a fairly deep wide receiver group already. And then they decided, let's bulk up the offensive and defensive lines. In the 4th round, they took offensive tackle James Hudson out of Cincinnati, as well as defensive lineman Tommy Togiai out of Ohio State. And then they rounded out the draft with a linebacker in the 5th.
Can Gage say the next name?
A safety.
Richard, I'm sure he goes by Dick LeConte.
And
that sounds right.
Lastly, a running back, Demetric Felton.
Oh, wait. I actually just Googled it, and it's LeConte.
Dick LeConte.
Dick LeConte. Yeah.
All right, Gage, give us the breakdown here of Dick LeConte.
The root origin of LeConte is actually from French. So in France, they pronounce them McConte.
Like a fine wine LeConte,
Yeah.
or like a nice heavy
The
beer
M
cheese?
L's kind of sound like M's there.
All right, cool. Let's get into, how about your scouting report on Greg Newsome?
Greg Newsome was really good. I think he would have fit in perfect for Green Bay if he would have fallen there.
But he didn't.
He didn't. The Browns got him. I think it's good. I think they did really good. Loaded up on defense.
What do you got their grade at, Gage? Do you like an A?
I did A-.
A minus.
Yep.
And who do you have for their rookie of the year and their 10-year stud?
I think it's going to be J-OK, man.
Do you?
I think
all the
they
way
got
around?
steal in the draft and pick 2. If these pick 1 and pick 2 were swapped,
swapped,
it'd be an A. But it just looks a little weird how it fell out. And obviously, Owusu-Koramoah was falling down the draft board. but I think that's a steal of the draft.
Star?
I'm going to say JOK for Rookie of the Year, but I think Greg Newsome might be the best tenured player on this draft class.
I think I'm going to have to go the same with that. JOK Rookie of the Year, because I think Newsome's not going to play as much with Ward, and then Greedy Williams is the other one they got, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to go JOK. I think Newsome long-term could have the potential to be better than JOK, especially if they can't figure out where they want to play him. Tommy Togai there at 132, though, round 4. That's a pretty good pick on the interior defensive side of the ball. So,
yeah, I agree with all of what you guys said. I'm going JOK for rookie, and I'm actually going to go as well JOK for 10-year stud. I like him. He's a big boom bust player, especially with that heart issue. Most players that turn up with some sort of heart issue end up not becoming anything in the NFL. It happened with that defensive tackle, Star Lutulele, a few years ago, and he's a player still in the NFL, but he's not a top 5 pick type player, which he was projected to be before his heart issue popped up.
Which probably had less to do with his heart and more to do with his talent to play.
But then there's also, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there was another guy that had one come up that ended up fizzling out as well. He was before Star Lutulele. Nonetheless, you hope for nothing but the best with Olusegun and the Cleveland Browns, and you hope that at pick 52 it was an absolute steal. For grades on the draft, outside of Gage's A- that he gave them, where do you guys stand?
I think I'm sitting at a B with it. I like their top 2 picks. I don't know as much about the other ones. The issue with their draft is they're not necessarily looking to draft for players that need to make a big impact right now, because they got a lot of players that are doing that. They filled a lot of holes in free agency. So I guess they were going more for depth, I think, than they were for day one starters. So I guess I'll give it a B+ for talking myself into that.
I was going B+ too. I think JOK is probably going to play that hybrid role, similar to how you saw Jeremy Chin get used in Carolina last year. And I think he's going to have similar, maybe a little less impact, but similar to the impact you saw from Jeremy Chin.
It reminds me a lot of the Jabril Peppers cat they traded to New York to get OBJ.
Yep.
I feel like they missed out on a really solid guy there, and this could be their replacement.
I'm going to go with an A-. I like the draft. The problem with the Browns, like Brandon said, is they have a lot of studs all over the team right now, so they don't necessarily need anything, but this is a good way to build up the positions that they're going to be facing coming up here in contract situations. So I like it. It gives these guys a year or two to kind of develop, and then obviously your top 2 or 3 players here are going to be in the rotation on Sundays right away. So I like the draft overall.
Ty goes to the higher score.
Yeah, we're split right between the 9 picks.
Moving on to the final team of this podcast, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens drafted round 1, pick 27, Rashad Bateman. They followed that up with round 1, pick 31, defensive end Odafe Owe. And then they drafted
Jason Owe.
No,
correct.
His name
He changed
is
his name. He changed his name to Odafe. He didn't change
his
it.
name
You're
is
right.
Odafe.
Yes.
And I don't know that we're pronouncing it right. If we're not, I'm sorry. But he says, learn to pronounce it.
Odafe Owe, maybe?
He doesn't want to go by a different name anymore. People can learn how to pronounce his name.
Well,
which is fair. He was just known as Jason Owe throughout the draft process.
Yeah.
The one I heard today was Udafe.
Odafe Owe. Whatever it is, Jason Odafe, whatever your name is, we'll get it right come whenever I hear it said more often. So make some plays and we'll get it right. Round 3, pick 94, guard Ben Cleveland. Round 3, pick 104, cornerback Brandon Steffens. Round 4, pick 131, wide receiver Tylan Wallace, who was a little surprising he fell that far. Round 5, pick 160, cornerback Shaun Wade, who was another surprise that he fell that far. And then as well, round 5, edge rusher Dalen Hayes, and round 5, tight end Ben Mason. If you look at just alone these top 3 picks, followed with the round 4 and round 5 of Tylan Wallace and Shaun Wade, I think this is a home run draft for the Baltimore Ravens. It's everything they needed and then some.
Absolutely. I love this draft. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, Bateman there, away. It might have been a little bit high for him, but
someone who didn't register a sack last year, I think a lot of people were going off of potential instead of production.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if someone said that in their draft write-up about him, the definition of something. But
No, it doesn't sound familiar at all. Definitely was not something I wrote in my top 100.
And he was very intriguing to me in the second round, so it does not surprise me at all that he made his way
He's
into
also
the bottom of the
the
first.
definition of boomer bust.
Yeah.
But also what you said first.
Is also, though, the definition of edge rusher. So he's got a lot of definitions to his name. One I did not nail was
the definition of
Odafe.
So you did have the tight end at the end of the draft, Ben Mason. I saw when I was doing research that he was more of a fullback.
Utility, kind of like Juszczyk.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're going to be using him as a lead backer for those solid run sets they go with.
You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Ben Mason.
I think that's just really good, sneaky 7th round draft pick.
If that's what he's going to
elevate that run game
Have
to the next
you ever
level.
started a fullback and won a fantasy football game?
Bitch.
Well, I'm just saying when your whole team is full of just running backs at positions they shouldn't be in, you need a lead blocker. So I think that's a sneaky good pick, and I like their draft a lot.
So what do you rate it?
Too.
If I had to grade this one, I would give it an A-, and I think the rookie with the best impact is going to be Bateman, but Oweh has got the 10-year potential.
I'm going to give this draft an A+. I love this draft for them on every single level. Rookie of the year has to be, I think it's going to be Oweh. He's going to have the chance right out of the gate to be the guy. They lost a lot of edge rushers, and I think the 10-year stud has a real chance of being Ben Cleveland. He's going to be a starter there for a long time, and he might just end up being one of those guys that hangs out in the NFC North for a very long time. So I'm going Ben Cleveland as the 10-year stud.
He's coming to Minnesota?
No.
Yeah.
What did I say? NFC North?
Yeah.
Or did I just say the North?
AFC.
You said NFC North.
Oh, sorry. He could hang out in the AFC North for a long time, and I think Oweh is going to be their rookie of the year.
It's tough. Oweh is definitely going to be starting day one, but I'm going to go Bateman to start. They're looking for a wide receiver. We've all liked him. You had him in the top 10 of draft prospects in your top 100.
Yep. No, number 2 wide receiver and my number 4 overall player.
So that's what it was.
Sure.
That was 2 overall player.
When did he slide to 2?
Oh, he's always been a 2. I like Bateman a lot. I think that he's going to have the potential to be heavily impacted in that offense because they're looking for a guy like him. Long term, seeing how it's probably just a 1-year deal for Bateman because, they have a running back, a quarterback. I'm going to go with Oweh again. Yeah. So I'm going to go Bateman and Oweh.
Don't go away. Stay here, dude.
What's your letter
We
grade?
got a podcast to finish.
I'm going to give it an A-. Tylan Wallace, they're at 131 is a solid pick. And then Sean Wade, too. He was much higher last year before this past season coming into the draft. There are some concerns that apparently if you can't play the outside in the Big Ten, that you can't play nickel cornerback in the NFL. There's been that thrown out, and he struggled on the outside last year playing for Ohio State. So little leery about him, but I did like his potential the year before. So give him a shot there. A-.
I'm going to give it an A. I think you have 5 players up there that are going to contribute as rookies, which is more than a lot of teams can say. Love the 2 wide receiver picks, just don't love where they went. That's always the toughest thing. It's almost like there isn't a wide receiver that fits the Baltimore Ravens offense. But who knows? Lamar Jackson can surprise us all, and they just haven't had the guy.
And
all
two,
they have
though,
to do is get a running back and split him out wide, then it fits perfectly.
Well, 2, though,
And at tackle.
the Ravens have tried the short, fast wide receivers. So now you have Bateman and Tylan Wallace, who both have a little bit of length to them.
Is it Tellin? Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Tylan, something like that.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter.
And they have Sammy Watkins.
I can help you with this Pam
yeah,
situation.
yeah.
The
And-
Jamar Chase of his draft.
yeah, and he could end up having a bounce back season this year, which would be now the 5th season in a row where people are saying he might have a bounce back season. So
Which one? Who?
Sammy Watkins.
Oh, yeah. He'll be good for the first week.
So yeah,
Ben Cleveland is my pick for Rookie of the Year. The man is a statue from Greek gods. Gets me going.
Yes.
Looking at pictures of him. I think he's going to be a mainstay there. But I want to go away
Cleveland.
but I think Oweh is probably going to go away from this team after 5 years because that seems what happens with good pass rushers for him. So I'm going to go with Ben Cleveland also having the best career. They just produce offensive linemen, and he might just be the next in line. They're looking for a left guard to go in next to Ronnie Stanley. I think he's going to slide in day one
God, look at this
and be there
sex
for a
machine.
long time.
And
oh, yeah.
right next to Stanley is a good spot for him, too, because Stanley's going to be taking a lot of pressure off at left tackle. So Cleveland could, he could just kind of skate in there and hang out.
Looks like a bulldog.
Well,
and that wraps up the AFC and NFC North breakdowns.
Yes, it does. And
Did it? It did?
Yep. We went through AFC, NFC North. Gage, recap the grades we gave everybody.
And rookie and 10-year studs from each team.
And I would like each pick in chronological order.
Yes. So the Packers got an F. I
There
think
we
that
go.
summarizes
That's
the
all you
whole
need to
draft
know.
coverage.
Star Lamar. Gage's right. Rat. Show.
Go jerk off.
Bye. Check out our website, www.officialbutthole.com. We're on all socials at officialbutthole. Please leave us a rating and review.
Please
do that. And we'll see you next time.
Do it.
What's up, girl?
Do you remember doing that on Friday night? Thursday night.
Way more seductive.
I was way more seductive when
Way
I
more
couldn't
boom
speak.
hour.
Some girl.
Your eyes were more close than that.
What a broadcast.
Hey.